The last alarm, Season 8, Episode 16, occurs 2 weeks after Bobby's death in the laboratory. Few people, least of all Athena and Chimney, are handling his death well, as was to be expected. In order to reaffirm her denial that Bobby is truly gone, Athena withdraws both mentally and physically before taking on a new case out of the blue. Chimney, meanwhile, is consumed by survivor's guilt and is more upset than depressed about Bobby giving his life. Even a heartfelt remembrance of Bobby's life doesn't give fans hope that this program won't be the same without him. There have been some intriguing responses to Bobby's passing. In the clearest illustration of the denial stage, a group of theorists gathered to make the most ridiculous predictions about Bobby's survival. But to be honest, the theories made sense within the parameters of the show, considering how ridiculous 911 has been in the past. The 4 main ones were that Bobby was going to be buried alive, that this was all a dream about a chimney coma, that Bobby was being held by the government for experimental purposes, and that Bobby would actually be resurrected like Jesus. After killing its most Catholic character on Easter, what does 911 expect from the final stretch, which is the longest of all? Even though 911 doesn't always give its viewers what they want, it still has a thorough understanding of its fan base, both positively and negatively. Peter Krause plays Bobby in a flashback that opens the episode, leading viewers to assume that if he returns for a few scenes, it's for good. The fact that Bobby's body wasn't released for 2 weeks and then was shortly after makes it seem suspicious. His burial in his native Minnesota is the last straw. Everyone, including the audience, must then acknowledge Bobby's departure. To gradually give grieving viewers crumbs of a wake-up call while feeding them delusions is cruel to a certain extent. However, the compelling narrative skillfully manipulates the fans' emotions to make them feel as though they are a part of this broken and sorrowful world. Nobody anticipates Athena's rapid recovery from the events of 911 Season 8, Episode 15. Between a glass window, she watched helplessly as her husband died. How is it possible for someone to accept that and move on with their life? She shuts down by immersing herself in her work, as is typical of Athena. She takes on a case looking into the alleged abduction of a baby that occurred during a fire that Bobby's team was called to a few years prior. Athena sees herself as the bereaved mother, so it's a case that's close to her heart, not because Bobby was involved. The tone of this subplot's inclusion is a little strange. The way 911 handles the mother, who is projecting her grief onto a boy she feels was taken from her, is a little silly. Additionally, the plot doesn't always align with Athena's time of mourning because this episode is a farewell to Bobby. However, it does ultimately result in one of Angela Bassett's greatest performances on 911. Although Bassett deserves every accolade imaginable, it is a gift to give this kind of agonized performance that is torn between sadness and rage, especially on a procedural series. Athena gets the closure she needs to bury Bobby after she informs the mother that her baby was not stolen and actually perished in the house fire. The funeral scene, which honors Bobby as a firefighter, mentor, husband, and father, is exquisitely done. Athena, May, and Harry fly out to Minnesota to bury Bobby next to his ex-wife and kids as the episode comes to a perfect close. "You're home now, baby," Athena says to Bobby as she kneels beside his coffin. What will happen to 911 now that Bobby is dead? How do people simply go about their daily lives? The strange thing about this episode is that, for obvious reasons, only Athena and Chimney are given enough time to grieve. Viewers aren't given the opportunity to witness how Buck, Eddie, Hen, and May initially handle the loss because of the 2-week time jump. A peculiar effect of time deprivation is that it makes them seem less concerned than they should be. More significantly, though, what impact does this have on Athena's plot? Although Bobby has always been a mainstay in her arc, female characters don't always require men to carry and support their stories. Where does she go from here without him? Athena will be around as long as Bassett is willing to help her get through this difficult period. However, it might only be a matter of time until 9-1's other star makes a farewell appearance as well, and then the show will be in even more trouble when it decides to move on permanently.